Computer. Okay, so what we are going to do today, we are going to talk about the exam techniques that work. Look, you are an adult, so you can't study as students do. When we were at school, okay, they told us that we need to do this, and that, and we would do that, right? Because, I don't know, because there was authority of our teacher or whatever. And we actually could study crazy things. Remember? Poems, like you have to read it and read it and read it and learn it by heart and then recite it. Have you tried doing that recently? Not that easy anymore, right? That's because you are an adult, so your brain works differently. Whatever was applicable to you at school is not actually anymore today. So you need to be taught differently. And that is a problem because not many people research how adults should be educated. And that is important for you because the most valuable resource that you have is time. Money can be compensated. You can pay for tuition and then go pass, get qualified, and increase your salary and pay it back. Time, when it's lost, it's lost. So I am very, very focused. I'm very cautious about time. And I would like to start with a few facts. Actually, I've had a few groups with 100% pass rate. And of course, I had groups where pass rates were lower. And well, that happens, right? There is no pressure. People come to me from different environments. People come to me being busy professional, and okay, that was their choice to allocate only that much time. So we do understand that, let's say, if they don't have time to practice at least a little bit, then it's going to be harder for them to pass. But they say, okay, I have to bargain on that because I don't want to postpone my exams and the perfect time is not going to happen. So I have lower pass rates as well. But I had those victories. So this means that I was able to deliver information to different kinds of students and they passed, despite working. I myself passed 3 exams in the single sitting. And at that very time, I was a busy professional. I worked for a Big Four company. And if any of you works for a Big Four company, you do know that it's actually quite a madness because you have this season and busy season and busy season. One season is busier than the rest. So I was able to pass despite having busy season, despite having a horse, my wonderful horse, to attend to that, of course, lived in the stable outside of the city. Why? Well, because as a kid, I was a member of the National Mathematics Olympiad, I think, and there we were taught how to deal with uncertainty, how to deal with unknown scenarios, because when you compete at that very high level, when you are among the group that has a chance to go to international competitions, the stakes are very high, so they prepared us very well. And that is the skill that helped me to pass 3 exams, not only once, but actually twice, and 2 exams for the rest of the sessions. And I'm going to share the screen, the skill, and of course the video is going to be recorded just in case you have to drop out. And of course, we have lots of people that can't join because they are either at work or at sleep, unfortunately. That is the drawback of working in this multinational environment. Besides, I have been a one-on-one tutor for many years. So what does it mean? What is the difference between one-on-one tutor from the tutor that has groups? Well, actually quite a lot. Well, first of all, I would teach a person individually. So I would see each and every step where they struggled, each and every misconception that they have. Not just something that would got revealed in assignments, or not something that would be revealed when a tutor is asked, when a student has a question. Because if we talk about misconceptions, so something that is understood the wrong way, a person would never know that they have understood it the wrong way, and they will never ask. And a tutor, like big group tutor, will never No. Well, I have this luxury of teaching people one-to-one, so I know how it works. I have fantastic working experience, so now I'm fractional CFO, so this means that I have just projects and I CFO couch companies for like a fraction of my time. I was full-time CFO, I was a Big Four auditor, I worked in due diligence, in financial consulting and so on. So I know how ACCA, not just SBR, but like almost each and every exam applies in practice. And if you haven't watched my video on or how ACCA is related to a CFO's job, well, go and watch it. I think that a job of chief financial officer, of the one who's in charge, who's the one who's a part of top management of the company, is fantastic. So I think that it's interesting. So yes, I hate this advice, like this advice, practice as much as you can, because you're an adult, you have life. If you had time, you would occupy it with hobby. You would go and do something with your kids. Life should not revolve around ACCA. Well, it has to for some time, but it shouldn't be the major event of your life. But anyways, let's talk about the skills, and I'm going to be pretty fast today because I want this session to be quite short so that everybody had a chance to sit till the end of it. So why is SBR a hard exam and what can we do about it? First of all, because there are more than 40 standards and papers. So we are going to have conventional standards like property, plant, equipment, IS 16, like IFRS 2 share-based payments. But on top of that, we are going to have sustainability standards. On top of that, we are going to have practice statements like materiality practice statement. And on top of that, we will have something that is not even in the standards, like criticism, for example. And there is a lot. And of course, you can tell me, well, but some standards like inventories is just one page in a book. Well, yes, inventory is short, but also there are misconceptions there, misinterpretations. But when we're going to talk about financial instruments, financial instruments are going to take you something like 7 hours. When we're talking about leases, this is a complex standard. We're going to have 3 parts there: lessee side, lessor side, and sale and lease back. Revenue, that's a lengthy standard. So it's a lot. So I just opened my folder where I have all the videos, and these are not all that are uploaded. There are a bit more that are uploaded, but like as of now, you can see it's 146 files. That's a lot, right? So some of them are shorter, like 5 minutes, some of them are longer, like 20 minutes, but still, that's a lot to learn. So what does it mean? Well, as for the like enhanced tuition course, where there is theory and basic practice, it's something like 36 hours, if I'm not mistaken. So you have a month before exam, a month and a little bit. So this means that you need to cover an hour worth of theory each and every day for this month and a half, and taking into account that some of the videos will need to be rewatched because, well, they are complex, despite the fact that I try my best to make them interesting, visualized, and memorable. Well, still, like when we're talking about the financial instruments, you will have to rewatch them. So you can see that there is quite a lot to do in here, unfortunately. So what to do? How do we fight with the fact that there are so many standards? We try to visualize them. So, for example, when we're talking about financial instruments, so like this was a part of the video where I talked about the loss allowance. So we have amortized cost, we have fair value through OCI. They are accounted for differently. It is important for us to visualize each and every part. So how transaction costs are going to be accounted for, what's going to be with the interest income, what's going to be with the cash receipt, what's going to be with the revaluation, and so on. And when we not just talk about each and every class of assets or liabilities separately, but also compare those that can be mistakenly confused, it helps your brain to map the information to the right shelves of its mental castle, and it helps you to retrieve the information better when you're in the exam. And on top of that, we also need to pay attention to some problems that might happen. It's my job to explain to you as a tutor what could go wrong. Where is that people make mistakes, like in here. Like not everybody picks up on the fact that for interest income, we actually copy the amortized cost calculation. We don't do opening balance times effective interest. This is not something that happens. But anyways, there are going to be some topics that are complex, like for example, associates, how to account for investment in associate. So if you are studying SBR and this is your self-study, make sure that you literally take A4 pieces of paper and that you draw something like make a mind map, make this scheme of how everything is accounted, what would be the debits, what would be the credits, and make sure that you have like for each and every standard or major part of the standard, that you have a piece of paper dedicated so that you would visualize, and try it not to be like some notebook, because in there you won't be able to see them together. Try to make separate sheets for that. Those of you who study with me, and well, some of you I can guess from the names that are my students, happy to see you. You are going to have the theory visualized as much as possible, like in here. This is an extract from the video where I explain how associates should be accounted for. So we have this visualized and moving how can I say, mind maps, where I explain to you, I visualize as much as we can, so that while I am going to discuss it, your brain will just memorize the pictures. It works much better than the thing that many other tutors do that don't want to waste so much time on preparation of visualized and interactive presentations. They just use the text content. Well, that is not what I'm going to do. So you're going to get this part. And some of them are going to be in free access. So those of you who are not going to study with me, still pay attention to my YouTube channel, because I sometimes post there some important videos that you can use. Or another example with the visualization, we need to use different colors, and that is what you need to do with your mind maps. So for example, IS-24 related parties. There are some parties that are related, so make sure that you kind of like make these summaries, you draw pictures so that your brain remembers that. But some of them are not related, so make sure that you change the color, that you draw them in red and so on, so that your brain would pick up on the fact that we are talking about something that is different, that we are talking about something that is irregular. Like in this case, two joint ventures are not related just because they have a joint venture. So like this lady and this man are not related because they just have 50% share each in a kindergarten. Now, what else? What is important? And I see it quite often. People ask for summaries. Oh, please give me summaries. Oh, I'm going to ask ChatGPT for summaries and so on. This is not how your brain works. That is counterintuitive, and it leads to more people failing the exam. Look, as an adult, think about it. Can you remember some isolated words like crocodile, like let's say microphone, like let's say what else, lamp, drapes, and something like that? You can't. So you can't memorize summaries. You can't, it just doesn't work this way. To memorize something, you need to put that in a story. So if you, let's say, would think about a story that a crocodile would take a microphone, would put a lamp as it would be a theatrical light, and would open the drapes and start performing, then you would memorize these 4 words. Outside of the context, you can't. So the problem with summaries, including ChatGPT summaries, is that when you read, your brain kind of like puts a tick mark. Okay, I do understand because this is short. But when you try to recall, especially when you try to recall in a week, in 2 weeks, you can't. And especially when it goes to the exam, because in the exam, you will start questioning yourself. Is this how it was supposed to be, or is it accounted for in a different way? And if you haven't lived through this story, well, unfortunately, that's why when you look at my summaries, you will see that they visualize that there is some story that I've been talking about. Or it's like, let's say, when we're talking about IS 23 borrowing cars, then okay, there is a person who is building some building, and that has happened, and that has happened, and that has happened, and there are pictures that make your brain alert to whatever is going on. The problem is with SBR, why else is it a hard exam? Because there is a huge area for misinterpretation. So look, you don't know when you don't know. Like, so for example, if you are colorblind, you can't say that there is something wrong with colors. If you like don't know anything about style, you can't say that this like short doesn't match this pants, right? So the same in here. Well, you just your brain kind of like creates its own vision, its own picture, and it happens in real life as well. I will ask you this question. Has it ever happened to you that you ask someone to go to the store and bring you something and they end up bringing something else? Like you ask them to go to the store and bring you some oil, and instead of like olive oil, they bring some machine oil for cars. It happens sometimes, right? And this is basic English. This is basic context. Well, because their brain thought about something else. Well, the same is in here. So, for example, huge areas of misinterpretation would be like debt investments that are accounted for at fair value through OCI. Well, with the interest income calculation, it like 99% of people fail to understand that we don't take the opening balance and multiply it by the effective rate. Instead, we copy paste whatever was there in amortized cost calculation, so we don't take the revalued balance. For convertibles purchased, not many people notice that when we're talking about convertible bonds that we have issued, it is indeed debt and equity. If we're talking about the convertible instruments that we purchased, we don't split that in parts. No. It's going to be an asset that does not consist of the cash flow test is not passed, so it's accounted for at fair value through P&L. Inventory impairment. So let's say that when we're talking about materials and net realizable value test, we don't test materials against the net realizable value. We need to add conversion costs and compare the finished goods carrying amount, well, including those conversion costs, calculated with the net realizable value of finished goods, not raw materials. So what to do with that? So what to do is quizzes. Look, I hate when the content is created by outsourced specialists. It happens quite often with big course providers because they want to cut profits, increase margins, make the prices more affordable. So let's say a tutor is just a talking head, and let's say the notes and the quizzes, these test questions, are created by someone else who passed the exam just yesterday. Sorry, but they don't know the full complexity. They don't comprehend the full complexity of the exam. They don't know what is tested and how. They don't know where people make mistakes. And what you end up with is silly questions like, what standard is used for that? It's never asked. It doesn't bring marks. It's just a waste of your time. So instead, what I suggest that you use quizzes either in my course. So in my course, you will see that there are quizzes for each and every topic for like each and every chapter and pay attention that it's not only quizzes, it's also the explanation of the result, because I don't want you to say, oh, it's right, and go next. No, I want you to understand this is, you are indeed right, and the answer is correct because of that and that, or not correct because of that or that. But also there are lots of free quizzes in my LinkedIn profile. So I do that on a weekly basis. And the statistics show that only like 30% of people get the right answer and the rest are wrong. And well, that is not a good result, right? So I also record video messages explaining why each and every option is right or wrong. And I test something, I use quizzes for something that is tested a lot. So these ideas are going to happen in your exams. So it's important for you to participate. So even my students, those that are in my course, please go to my LinkedIn and also participate in those quizzes, because they're different from whatever you have. You have a lot, right? So like you have quizzes for each and every standard, and there are lots of quizzes. And for big standards, there are many more quizzes, but LinkedIn is also different types of quizzes. So participate as well. Another problem, unexpected questions. And yes, we have I get questions like that so very often. What questions do I expect in December sitting? And then I will show you, we open the past paper, like this one is March, June, and we see a question that reads, critically assess the extent to which Maple Company's disclosure of judgment and estimates is useful for investors. First of all, is there any standard that covers that? No. You've paid attention to debits and credits, to property, plant, equipment, original recognition, depreciation, and so on. To, let's say, consolidation. Of course, you've never read about it. So this is something that is unknown. And you can say, I will tell you what topics we do expect to be tested. So that will be your top priority. But on top of that, it is just a fact that you are going to get something that you have not expected. Like that, for example. So what do we do with that? How do we deal with that? Well, first of all, I teach you the skill of dealing with uncertainty. And well, there are different techniques. One of them is to see the answer, is to see the hints in the scenario itself. So when I'm going to read questions, you will see that I explain each and every like word or like a sequence of words. I explain what it means in terms of accounting, how it can be tested, how it can be challenged, and so on. And then when I answer the question, I use pieces from the scenario and I comment on them so that you would see how the answer is formed from the scenario, so that you would learn this very skill itself. This is something that helped me to pass 3 exams in a single sitting. This is something that happens my busy professionals, so my clients, because they don't have forever to study, so they have to cut corners, and they are not supposed to, but they don't study the full syllabus and they pass because of this skill. So what do? We practice unusual questions. So for example, that very question, the estimate note. Also make sure that you practice September, December 18 Skizzer. There is a question part 1 on the conceptual framework. So the question reads, discuss why not recognition of intangible asset, like that, yes? Criteria for recognition of intangible asset are consistent with the conceptual framework. That is not something that you would expect if you would be an average student focusing on debits and credits. With my students, I start with such questions from day 1 so that you would develop the skill over time, so that it wouldn't be just last week's job. No, you need to be alert that SBR is not about debits and credits. It's about discussions. So make sure that you have attempted the question. Those of you who work with me, we have this pre-recorded. You have my explanation, including the importance of blocking argument. Now, another thing that makes this exam hard is 1 mark per relevant point. So you open the past papers, you open the marking scheme, and it's 1 mark per relevant point, and you're like, okay, is my point relevant or not? And when we talk about one-on-one classes, I have people that come to me after several retakes, and then I see how they write the answer, and I do understand that their answer, well, first of all, is inefficient, too many words per an idea, and also doesn't bring marks. We're going to talk about bringing marks a little bit later. So I make sure that I don't give you the model answer. I don't care about model answer. There are even questions where I say, okay, look, this question is for 10 marks. We have come up with 8 marks. This is where we are going to start, because the rest of the 2 marks, they are quite thin. They're quite slim. And in the real exam, you would never guessed it. And yes, the model answer suggests those ideas. We are not going to do that. You need to understand that if you don't have ideas that are related to the scenario, you need to put a stop on this very question and go to the next one. So watch my example videos. There are also some uploaded on my YouTube channel, and I show you how we generate the answer from this scenario. Watch my practice videos for the exam technique. So, for example, I teach you that we can't use and in our answer. Every time you use the word and, you are losing marks, or comma, or. Why? Because when you use and, the justification that you give becomes wrong. So, for example, your dinner that consists of, let's say, bread and meat is very good because it is rich in protein. That is invalid argument, because bread is not rich in protein. When we're talking about meat, yes, but because you said bread and meat are rich in protein, then this means that the whole idea is going to get 0 mark. The whole idea is wrong. So those of you who submit your mocks and assignments, make sure that you do that so that I could comment on your technique. Time management. So with the time management, we need to pay attention to the number of questions in this scenario. Why? Because quite often there is going to be several questions in one. We're going to see that in a minute. And we need to use the scenario to generate the answer. And again, we're going to see that in a minute. And sometimes it happens that you don't know what to write. You need to understand that your brain is playing tricks with you. First of all, you need to understand that quite often there are several questions in one. So make sure that you break down the question in parts. Make sure that you go step by step. So nobody cares what the final answer is. Even if the question is yes or no, should it be, let's say, accounted for as subsidiary or as an associate? Should it, let's say, be recorded in P&L or OCI? Doesn't really matter if it's just 1 mark, if any. You are given marks for the process of answering, and not for the answer, for the final answer itself. The final answer is not important at all. So don't try to look at the question and solve it. You need to go sentence by sentence, step by step. Try using the words on one hand, on the other hand. So for example, if it is a discursive question, like let's say on the importance of estimates note, say on one hand, the estimates will do blah, 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 blah. That very good. On the other hand, if estimates are disclosed, they may confuse the readers because they will think that the financial statements are not accurate enough, and so on. So this construction, on one hand, on the other hand, allows you to get 2 marks instead of 1. Use it. Don't try to change the word and give the final answer. Challenge it. So the final conclusion does not really matter. We do need to make it sometimes to keep to the professional point, right? This for the quality of our answer, that there is a final conclusion. But as from the technical perspective, it doesn't really matter whether the currency is dinars or dollars or euros or whatever. What matters is your process. Now, I will show you an example, and well, you will see that in my course that this is what we do quite often. So, discuss how to account for players' contract cost, including the contingent performance conditions and impairment which might be recorded to these non-current assets, and where the player can be considered as a single cash-generating unit. What do we do in here? Well, first of all, your brain panics because it's a long line. What do we need to do instead? We need to take this. We need to copy paste this. We need to go to our answer, right? Can we here? And we need to break it down. So how to account for the player's contract cost, including performance condition, any impairment that might have been required to non-current assets, and whether the player can be considered a single cash generating unit. And suddenly our 6 marks is broken into 4 sub-questions. So each and every sub-question is going to bring us 1 to 2 marks. Then we start reading and try to find whatever relates to this part. So player contracts cost, registration contract costs are known as intangible, shown as intangible assets, and are initially recognized at fair value of the consideration paid for their acquisition. Okay, so discuss how to account for players' contract costs. This relates to this part. We are going to copy paste there and say whether it's right or wrong and why. However, subsequently, players' contracts are often renegotiated at a cost, at additional pay. Okay, so we would need to say what this additional pay is how it's going to be accounted for. So that is our answer plan. Also, player contracts may contain contingent performance conditions where individuals, players may be paid a bonus based on their success in terms of goals scored or success of the football team as a whole. Oh, that relates to this. Oops, spoiler alert. This relates to this next part, right? Including performance conditions. We're going to put there. Now, for some of the ideas, you will make sense. Some of them are going to be quite understandable. So you will be able to give a good conclusion. Some of them are going to be a complete kill. So you will have no idea what to do, let's say, with the renegotiation at cost. If you have no idea, think about at least the other side of the entry. So who pays the cost? It's probably us. Okay, so it's credit cash. The question is, where is debit can go? Where can debit go? Well, there are 2 options. It either goes to P&L or to some asset, like intangible asset. Okay, when can something go to the intangible assets, to non-current assets? When is going to bring value long term? Okay, can it bring value long term? Well, probably yes, right? So because the player is going to play for extended period of time, so probably it has to be capitalized. Okay, how can we formulate it? Okay, let's say that the money paid will be required for the player who's going to stay with the company for extended period of time. So it increases the value of the intangible asset and should be capitalized, something like that. So don't panic if you don't know the answer immediately. Try to kind of like work with it. Try to think about the other side of the story. And that is how I'm going to attempt the questions in the videos that I have uploaded for you as practice questions, so that you would pick up on this very trick. But make sure that at first you are going to attempt the question on your own, so that you would learn something new. Another problem, and what we need to do to fix, is not understanding the concept. They are not understanding the context, meaning that people answer the wrong exam. First of all, the exam is not about debits and credits. So nobody is going to give you marks if you just are going to do debit, let's say P&L, credit, cash. If you're going to just write it, this is 0 marks. You are taking the exam strategic business reporting. So this is about explaining someone how to account and why justify your approach. We're talking about the perception of the financial statements and how some action is going to impact that. So what you would need to do, you would need to explain why it is going to be accounted like that, why it will be expensed to P&L, and you need to use words. So it's as if you were to write an email to someone who's very official, who is several grades above you. You can't just write gibberish to them. You can't make a draft. You need to write a proper sentences. Now, the next is that there are commonly tested tricks. So what does it mean? Well, there are standards and there are ideas that are tested very often, and you need to just learn about them. So, for example, when we see a previous year, this is a red flag that we are going to have IAS 8. We are going to talk about whether it was a change in estimate or accounting policy or an error. If we see the next period, it's a red flag that IAS 10 is going to be used. So events after the reporting period will need to be assessed whether they are adjusting or non-adjusting. If we are told that the company was trying to dispose of something, maybe it will not be accounted for as assets held for sale, disposal, group discontinued operations or something like that. But if it's not, then at least it's going to be assigned for impairment. So these tricks, those of you who are with me on the course, I tell you as we go. On top of that, there is a YouTube channel and my podcast, SBR Made Easy, where I explain to you how different standards can be tested. The videos are short. They will not help you to pass on their own. That is not their goal. Their goal is to highlight those tricks that are tested the most commonly. Like, for example, when we are talking about, let's say, IAS 37, and I've had this quiz recently on my LinkedIn, and people didn't know when IAS 37 does not work. So, for example, what do we do with returns when we sold something and we expect returns? That it's not going to be a provision, rather it's going to be a contract liability under IFRS 15. So if you're taking this exam, please take a few minutes and watch those. Now, also, not formulating the answer the way that brings marks. That is very important. It's going to help you in other exams as well. So first of all, every number needs to have a title. Like we can't say queen, right? We say like Her Majesty the Queen. The same idea is in here. So you can't just say that the building will be recognized at 10 million. This will not bring you a mark because there is no explanation. But if you're going to use the keywords like at cost, at fair value, at its carrying amount, at net realizable value or something like that, that is going to be a mark. Investment in bonds will originally be recognized at fair value of 250. Don't skip it because you are going to lose marks. Every calculation that you are going to engage into needs explanation of its components. So you can't just say interest cost is 10 million times 5%. You need to say that the interest cost is charged based on the effective rate for similar bonds without the conversion option, which is 5%. So see, I explained that. An opening balance of 10 million. And one of the questions I received was how to write faster, how to get marks in shorter number of words. That is how you do that. So with our practice, you will learn how to formulate your ideas in a way that brings marks, and that is going to be the most helpful to those that have poor English knowledge, because it's going to be easier for you to remember, and those people who are a bit neurodivergent. So like if you have dyslexia, it's going to be a bit easier for you when you have the same components used over and over again. Every accounting matter should be broken down in 4 steps. So we need to make sure that we talk about the recognition. So what would be the date and what would be the amount? So for example, derivatives are recognized on the day when the transaction is signed in their fair value of 0. Then we need to say what is going to be the statement of financial position line. So, for example, since the company plans only to receive cash flows, since the instrument gives the cash flows which only represent interest payment and the principal repayment, and the company plans to hold it till maturity, then the investment in bonds are going to be carried at amortized cost. Then what happens for the period and whether it's profit and loss or OCI. So, for example, the building will be revalued to its fair value of that much, with the difference of that much going to OCI. And what is the balance at the period end? So what is going to be in the statement of financial position? Sometimes this tab goes before the previous one. So for example, if I were to talk about the business and revaluation, I would first say what's going to be at the year end. So it will be stated at its fair value of that much. And then I would say what would be the revaluation charge to OCI. But if it would be, let's say, a loan, I would first charge the interest. So I would write whatever will happen in P&L, and then I would say what would be the carrying amount. Now, going next. So when explaining the accounting treatment in discursive questions, follow the following approach. First, we copy-paste whatever comes in the scenario. We literally copy-paste it because it allows you to make your answer align with the scenario. There is a high chance that you are going to get marks. There is a high chance that you are answering the right question, and it gives you the ability to generate the idea. Then take a portion of slide and give a conclusion. What does it mean? Well, imagine that we are talking about property, plant, equipment, and we have it in the scenario that the company spent, let's say, $1,000 on training employees how to use this property, plant, equipment. You are going to copy-paste, you're going to state the fact. So company spent $1,000 on training. Then say what it means from the perspective of a slide. So the slide told us that only the expenses that were needed to bring the assets to the condition and location need to be capitalized to site. So this were not needed to bring the asset to either condition or location, and give a conclusion. So the training cost will be expensed. That is how we explain. So don't forget any of the 3 steps. Now, these were the tricks as how to formulate the answer. Now, topics that are an absolute must. Ethics. Ethical questions are an absolute must because that is something that is going to be tested with 100% probability. With ethics, we have kind of like 2 different topics. We have principles. So this is going to be professional competence, objectivity, professional behavior, integrity, and confidentiality. And that is tested in 99.9% of the exams. And we also have threats to objectivity like self-review, advocacy, and so on. To threats to independence, and with these, they are tested not very often, so you can just glance at them, but with the principles, it has to be studied by heart. Well, also changes in group structure are going to be important, of course, because that is part 1. And with the changes in group structure, I can give a link to my hidden playlist on YouTube, where there is basic consolidation for those who need to review whatever was there in the financial reporting exam. Those of you who have access to my course, you will see it in here in the course, and also changes in the group structure. So we would go through different scenarios, and I will explain to you, trying to visualize it as much as possible. We are going to practice SBR style consolidation questions, these are an absolute must. Like, for example, existence of control is tested very often and so on. So we are going to practice so that you would know how to structure your answer, what are the red flags and so on. So as you can see, there is quite a lot to learn. Now, here is the slide on ethics. With the ethics, the problem is that the same action can breach several ethical principles. So, for example, if the CFO hasn't recorded right of use asset and lease liability and instead recorded the lease payments as rent expense. So you would need to explain why it's the breach of professional competence, why it's the breach of objectivity, and that is what I show you in the video. So make sure that you see how it is structured so that you could repeat it in your own exam, because the chance of this getting tested is 99%. IAS 32 financial instruments presentation, so namely the part that relates to distinction between liability and equity. This is vital because also we have modern issues like cryptocurrencies, and in there, this definition, whether it's equity or liability or any other account like revenue, for example, would be vital. And again, we do lots of practice. IAS 38 intangible assets. Why would it be important? Because even production companies have lots of intangible assets, so you can't go and be an accountant and not to deal with that. So they are tested almost in each and every exam. The chances of them getting tested are very high, and the problem is that when people see the standard, they are like, oh, there was something that was in financial reporting, pirate criteria, okay, oh, that's okay, I'm okay with that. Hold my beer. No, it's not. It's much more complicated, so you need a fair share of practice. Financial instruments. So with the financial instruments, I skipped here IFRS 9. So I always get asked, oh, do I really need to go through this hedging? Do I really need to go through impairment? Yes, you have. That is tested pretty often. With the intangible assets, we're going to look through different scenarios so that you learn how to justify whether something is intangible asset, is not intangible asset, will be capitalized to intangible asset, will not be capitalized. What is the most important factor of pass or fail? Is your feedback. So submit your assignments for my review. It's like with training. So if you wanted to do yoga, you might think that your arms are in parallel, but they are not, right? And you can learn however much you want that they need to be in parallel. Look in the mirror, make sure that they are in parallel. They will not be. So you need a tutor who's going to come to you and they're going to say, no, look, that is the parallel. Yours is not. Same idea in here. You need a tutor who's going to say, okay, this needs to be improved. This is okay already. This is something that is illegal practice. Please don't, because you're going to lose marks. And how can I help you pass? So look, there are lots of free opportunities like my LinkedIn. So here I am. So you can just look me up, Liliya Kirilenko FCCA. So I'm an ICCA tutor. And with my LinkedIn, you have lots of information there. So for example, we have quizzes like this one up. And as you can see, the right answer was, I think it was this one. I don't remember. I will not go into one of these. I think the second one. So as you can see, just a fraction of people got it right. I also have great articles like how to study for ACCA if you have a full-time job. Okay, so many people loved it, many people reposted it, so you can benefit from it as well, from them. There are quite a lot of them there. You can look at my features. I have SBR Made Easy podcast on YouTube. There is also my SBR course. So why do I love SBR course? And I'm very proud of it. I think that it's of top quality because there was no outsourcing. It was done from scratch. Everything, absolutely everything. The only thing that is done not by me in here is the technical side of creating the website. So for there, we have an administrator who uploads that and so on. But each and every quiz was created by me for a reason. Each and every, let's say when we're talking about the notes that you are going to get, they're going to be focused, were created by me, like remembering that you're an adult. So you need the information that is focused, that is related to your exam, and you don't need to read about something that will never be tested. So this is my course. And there are different options. So if enhanced tuition is going to explain you a theory very well, very visualized, and it gets you the basic examples that you need to understand stuff. And also there are going to be some revision videos of major standards like IFRS 9, like IFRS 15, 16, so that after you have covered the enhanced tuition course, you could also try to remember whatever was in those very important standards. Revision Plus, it takes the revision videos, so for not of all standards, for some of them, and they don't explain, they just remind you. And also there are lots of past practice papers. Funny thing is that it takes me 160 minutes, 175 minutes to explain a past paper to you. So that would include all questions that were tested, explanation why it is like that, why it is not like that, and so on. So as you can see, the papers can be done within the time allowed. So I spent even less than 3 hours and 15 minutes. And I am able to give you much more content on top of that. And that allows you to get this fantastic technique of seeing the answer within the answer and answering in the more efficient way. And what is important is also that there is a platinum course, which is actually the combination of 1+2, but at a discount. So you are welcome. You can text me for a discount code of 5%. Those of you who have watched this very video or participated in the training. Yes, and your questions. So can we spot SBR paper for December and what to expect? So I told you which standards have to be studied very well. As for what to expect, we can expect the unknown, and that is the skill that we need to develop. Which study areas to prioritize the most? So I told you it's ethics, it's SBR style consolidation questions, changes in group structure, IS 32, IFRS 9, IS 38. New sustainability standards, I'm not going to take you through it because it's quite a lengthy video, set of videos actually, and examples like on S1 and S2, but it's important to practice them, I agree. Tackling IFRS 9. Oh, my YouTube subscriber from Nepal, I'm happy that you like my SBR Made Easy podcast. It's indeed is superb. So it has lots of videos on IFRS 9. I'm not going to go through them, but those of you who are with my course, so you are don't be worried, because in there it's going to be explained, visualized, they're going to be relatable examples. So some people don't even understand what was the hassle about. It turns out to be quite easy. Approach for exam technique to question answer. So this is what I told you, that we need to break down in parts, that we need to copy paste, and we need to have this 4 steps approach when we have numbers, that we need to have 3 steps approach when we have discursive questions, that we need to introduce each and every number, and so on. The mark was 45 and you want to clear the December attempt. So what can happen is that you just are not mark efficient. So what you need is the feedback on your technique, on how to improve the way you collect marks. Because what many people have, they have great ideas, but when they write their ideas, they write it in a way that the market can't award marks. Go back to me explaining how to answer the question. So for example, if you say that the building should be recognized at 10 million, you don't say that it has to be recognized at a cost of 10 million, you don't get a mark. How to write an answer in a simple way? By following the same approach. And ultimately, if you watch the number of practice videos that I have on how to attempt the question. You pick up on the technique, you do it the same way, so there is no variation, and it turns out to be very simple. How to combine SBR, AFM, SBL in December attempt for a full-time student. December, you don't have much time and there is a lot of content. So what you need to do, you need to make sure that you have 3 touches a week. So the idea to study one exam and then second exam and then third exam is not a very good one. SBL is going to be the easiest, and the syllabus there is easier to understand. So this is something that could be of a smaller priority. Start with SBR and AFM first, and then add SBL. So just to make sure that you follow this approach, that you first of all, on day 1, you watch the videos on how to attempt the questions, the theoretical videos. The next day, you are going to watch the videos for the second exam, and you try to attempt the videos, the questions that relate to the videos that you watched in a previous day for the first exam, like SBR, and so on, and rotate it this way. So what you need to make, revision the next day, and then in 5 to 7 days after you've studied a topic. So don't just read everything and then practice. You need to make it combined, and that is what actually works for adults. Okay, so that is what I wanted to tell you. Do you have any questions? And yes, thank you for staying with me. Those who got a chance to get to the meeting at this time, which is, of course, not very comfortable for everyone. If you have questions, you can ask it right now, or you can, will you email the recording? Yes, I will. I will email it probably tomorrow in the morning, because I will have classes after you, so it won't get processed up until night. Anything else? Well, I'm happy you asking for a recording, so this means that the content was valuable. This is optimistic. Okay. Then if there are no questions, I'm not going to keep you longer. Thank you for participating. And I'm going to email you the recording. Please make sure that you stay in touch in LinkedIn. To do that, make sure that you like, repost, and comment, so that LinkedIn would know that this is the content that you like, that you need, and it's going to make sure that you see whatever I have posted each and every day. And this means that you will benefit from all those ACCA, SBR related ideas. Thank you again for joining. And I'm happy that it was very helpful. Thank you. And I am going to see you on LinkedIn. Yay. Bye. Bye-bye.